Imagine finding a tiny stone pipe buried for over 10,000 years. Scientists carefully examine the inside and discover traces of a plant still clinging to its walls. That shocking discovery suggests humans may have been smoking thousands of years before written history even began. But why would ancient people breathe smoke into their lungs without cigarettes, tobacco companies, or modern culture? The answer is far stranger than most people imagine. Or vaping. It feels like a modern habit, something connected to factories, advertisements, and today's world. But the truth goes much deeper. Long before cities existed, long before the pyramids were built, and even before the first alphabets were written, humans were already using smoke in ways that still fascinate archaeologists today. However, here's something many people get wrong. Ancient humans didn't necessarily smoke for pleasure like many people do today. For many early cultures, smoke was connected to ceremonies, healing traditions, and spiritual beliefs. Different communities used different plants, and not every ancient society practiced smoking at all. This is why archaeologists have spent decades searching for evidence that can answer one simple question. When did humans actually start smoking? The answer isn't as straightforward as you might think. Bones or stone tools, smoke disappears almost instantly. It leaves almost no direct evidence behind. That makes this one of the hardest mysteries for archaeologists to solve. Instead of looking for smoke itself, researchers search for tiny clues. Ancient pipes carved from stone, burned plant remains preserved underground, microscopic chemical residues trapped inside old artifacts. These clues allow scientists to reconstruct moments that happened thousands of years ago. One of the most important discoveries came from North America. Researchers found ancient stone pipes containing chemical evidence consistent with wild tobacco use. Some of these finds date back more than 10,000 years, making them among the oldest known pieces of evidence linked to tobacco. But archaeologists are careful about what these discoveries mean. Finding tobacco residue doesn't automatically prove that people smoked it every day. It only tells us that tobacco, or a similar plant, was used in those ancient pipes. Exactly how often and for what purpose is still being studied. Imagine living thousands of years ago. There were no hospitals, no pharmacies, no scientific understanding of disease. People relied entirely on nature. Every plant mattered. Some plants became food, others became medicine, and a few produced smoke with unusual effects. Many historians believe ancient people experimented with local plants over countless generations. Some plants created pleasant aromas. Some may have helped keep insects away when burned. Others were used during ceremonies because communities believed the rising smoke carried prayers or symbolized a connection to the spiritual world. It's important to remember that these beliefs varied greatly between cultures. One single reason why every ancient community used smoke. Some groups may never have smoked at all. Others may have reserved it only for special ceremonies performed by respected spiritual leaders. What we do know is that smoke often held symbolic meaning far beyond simple recreation. As archaeologists continue making new discoveries, one thing becomes increasingly clear. Smoking didn't begin with modern civilization. Its roots stretch back thousands of years into humanity's distant past. But an even bigger mystery was waiting. If early people were already using wild tobacco and other plants in ancient rituals, how did tobacco transform from a sacred ceremonial plant into one of the most valuable trade goods in history? The answer involves explorers crossing oceans, cultures colliding, and a single plant that would eventually spread across nearly every continent on Earth. For thousands of years, tobacco remained largely unknown outside the Americas. Many indigenous communities had already developed traditions around the plant long before Europeans arrived. In some cultures, tobacco was treated as sacred. It could be offered during ceremonies, used in prayer, or included in important social rituals. These practices varied widely. There was no single way that every community used tobacco. Everything changed in 1492, when Christopher Columbus and his crew reached the Caribbean. European explorers noticed local people carrying dried tobacco leaves and using them in different ways. Curious, they brought tobacco back to Europe. At first, many Europeans believed tobacco was a miracle plant. Doctors even claimed it could cure headaches, toothaches, stomach problems, or infections. Today, there is no scientific evidence that tobacco is a cure for these diseases. But centuries ago, medical knowledge was very limited, and such beliefs became surprisingly common. Without realizing it, the world was about to begin one of the biggest cultural changes in history. As tobacco reached Europe, demand grew rapidly. Farmers began planting huge tobacco fields. Merchants shipped tobacco across oceans. Within a few generations, smoking had spread throughout Europe, parts of Asia, Africa, and eventually much of the world. But the reasons had changed. For many ancient communities, tobacco had been connected to ceremonies and traditions. Now, for many people, it was becoming a commercial product. Pipes became fashionable. Later came cigars. Centuries after that, manufactured cigarettes appeared, making smoking easier and cheaper than ever before. A practice that had once been limited to certain cultures had become a global industry. Modern science has completely changed our understanding of tobacco. Researchers now know that tobacco contains nicotine, a chemical that can lead to dependence. Studies have also shown that smoking significantly increases the risk of serious diseases, including lung cancer, heart disease, stroke, and chronic lung conditions. This doesn't erase tobacco's historical importance. Instead, it reminds us that history and health are two different conversations. Ancient people couldn't have known what modern medical research has discovered after centuries of scientific study. Their reasons for using smoke were shaped by the knowledge, beliefs, and traditions of their own time. Understanding history doesn't mean copying the past. It means learning how human knowledge has evolved. So, when did ancient humans start smoking? Based on the archaeological evidence available today, humans were using smoking pipes and plants such as wild tobacco at least 10,000 years ago in parts of the Americas. It's also possible that people in different regions burned and inhaled other plants for various purposes, but the exact timeline is still being researched. The story of smoking isn't just about tobacco. It's a story about curiosity, about culture, about belief, and about how one simple plant changed the course of human history. Every new archaeological discovery helps us understand our ancestors a little better, and reminds us that the past is often far more surprising than we imagine.